Mario Kart 8 Deluxe has gotten out of hand. 96 tracks is absurd. Not to mention going to be hard to match in the upcoming Mario Kart 9, or whatever Nintendo decides to call it. Though really, is that something we should care about for the next Mario Kart entry? Like seriously, who has the time to play all of those tracks anyway? Certainly not me. So I'll just do what any good professional does these days and outsource that to AI. So let's find out. Is it possible to beat Mario Kart 8 Deluxe's DLC by doing absolutely nothing? The rules for today's challenge are pretty straightforward and identical to how we did this back in the main game, which if you haven't seen that, you may want to check it out. We're going to try to beat every DLC Grand Prix in 50cc without ever touching the controller during the races. Instead, we'll be relying wholly on the game's auto-accelerate and auto-steer functions. That means no items, no drifting, and some truly awful racing lines. But in spite of all of that, we are going for the gold. Let's see how it goes. Though, of course, before we burn rubber, we need to obtain rubber to burn. I'm saying we need to build a cart. Honestly, it's probably the most important thing for us to do, since it's literally the only control we have over everything that's about to transpire. I'm picking Luigi as my driver because, dude, it's Luigi. Of course he's driving for this challenge, like, come on. As for the cart, we'll be rocking the Circuit Special with slick wheels and a standard glider. Basically, we are disregarding every stat aside from speed. My logic here is as follows. Handling and traction both affect steering, which will be terrible anyway, so why bother optimizing it? That leaves weight, acceleration, and speed to potentially optimize for. Of the three, weight seemed less impactful overall, which really made the choice between speed and acceleration. Acceleration would be useful for getting back up to speed after getting hit by an item, or taking a turn awfully and slowing down as a result. Both things which are likely to happen more often than usual, given that we can't use items to defend ourselves, and again, our steering is going to suck. But actually going as far as to optimize for acceleration seemed to me like a band-aid solution to a gaping wound that is our lack of item use and terrible racing lines. Overall, I figure since turns aren't going to be our thing regardless, we might as well lean into it and at least make the cart an absolute beast on straightaways, and maybe be able to make up some ground there. We'll see how well it goes though, as we get into the races. First up is the Golden Dash Cup, featuring the tracks Paris Promenade, Toad Circuit, Choco Mountain, and Coconut Mall. And let me tell you, we are off to a good start. Thanks to these tracks' simple nature, we managed to get first place in all of them, except for Toad Circuit. And even then, that was a second place finish. But hey, that's one of the easiest cups in the game. I'll be expecting a meteor challenge in the later ones. Next up is the Lucky Cat Cup, where things start off a bit rockier, when a first place finish in Tokyo Blur is ripped away from us by a blue shell. Yes, we are still doing well enough to get hit by blue shells, but still, I would have preferred the first place finish. That leaves us taking home the bronze instead. We dodged the traffic in Shroom Ridge pretty effectively by hugging the shoulder of the road, but that isn't exactly an ideal racing line from a speed perspective, so here we too end up taking third place. Sky Garden has a bit of a friendzone route for us, if you ignore the hairpin turn at the end that we always take as widely as possible. Nevertheless, we can catch up on the straightaway immediately thereafter and snag second place. That leaves us 10 points behind first going into the Cup's final race. So I'm not exactly thrilled about our odds. And for good reason. Between the spikes, the tricks we missed because we can't do them, and the right angle turns, we close out our pre with a second place finish, leaving us third overall. Well, guess we'll try again. And again. And again. Finally, we take first overall despite only finishing first in one race. But hey, I'll take it. Hopefully the next pre will be slightly more accommodating to auto-steering. The Turnip Cup starts with New York Minute, which again has a bunch of right angle turns that we take in about the worst way possible, leading nearly to a fourth place finish, but luckily thanks to the straightaway it ends up being a second. Mario Circuit 3 doesn't go much better. Its straightaway at the end is much more anemic, granting us just a 3rd place finish. We do a bit better in Calamari Desert thanks to its gentle curves and long straightaways, leading to a 2nd place finish. The cup ends with Waluigi Pinball, which goes alright until we end up on the table, where we often hit at least one bumper before ramming into a flipper repeatedly. Quite frankly, I'm a bit surprised we did as well as getting 5th place. Well, I guess we'll give it another go. This time things went a bit better on Waluigi Pinball. A well-timed flick of the flipper was enough to free me from it on the last lap fairly quickly, allowing me to take seconds. In fact, I got 2nd place on every track this attempt. But that still left me 1 point shy of Mario. Let's go again! My placement in Waluigi Pinball actually declined by 1 this attempt. Luckily, 1st place finishes in Mario Circuit 3 and Calamari Desert offset it enough to let me win overall. Next up is the Propeller Cup and its first race, Sydney Sprint. A relatively simple and obstacle-light track with this annoying banked turn when coming out of the Sydney Opera House. We of course drive straight up the incline, then awkwardly turn just before hitting the wall, dropping me down to 4th place at this crucial point in the race. I was only able to claw my way back to 3rd by the finish line. Next was Snowland, which probably had ice physics to deal with. I don't know, I wasn't driving, so I didn't really experience it firsthand. Honestly, I don't think the ice affected my performance all that much. No, all credit for my 4th place finish here goes to the numerous shells I was peppered with towards the end of the final lap. As it turns out, being unable to use items defensively might actually be more detrimental to us here than being unable to attack with them is. Mushroom Gorge somehow went much better. Sure, the turn at the end isn't ideal, but we don't take it terribly by our standards. We also don't trick off the bouncy mushrooms for extra speed, but the mushroom sections are basically just fancy straightaways, and that's where we've always made our money, and here it's no different. We do manage to secure a 1st place finish here, though after back-to-back 4ths, it may be too little too late. I guess we'll see in Sky High Sunday. Anyone else just sort of hate this track, aesthetically, and conceptually, and from a gameplay perspective? Well, that's beside the point. As it turns out, it's really just a big oval with a very generous straightaway at the end. Sure, we don't take the track's 2 corners gracefully, but if there's one thing auto-steering is actually pretty good at, it's not falling off, and falling off is really the only way to horribly mess up on this track. So yeah, we won, and somehow that incredibly strong finish in the back half of the Prix was just enough to put us over the edge and win the Propeller Cup. The Rock Cup starts with London Loop, where I've learned apparently London is some urban nightmare where dogs roam free and bite whomever they please. Or in slightly more direct language, since we hug the edges of the track so aggressively on turns in particular, we're extremely vulnerable to getting hit by chain jumps. I still finished in 1st place though. Boo Lake features more of our annoying friend, 90-degree turns. Still got 2nd though, so I won't complain too much. Next up was Rock Mountain, a track where auto-steering completely fails us. Yo Mario, these cars better not be out on the streets, because with your auto-steering gliding me straight off a cliff? That's a lawsuit waiting to happen. I did win the race though, so I guess I don't have standing to sue. Finally, we cap off the cup with Maple Treeway. The track has a fair number of turns, but this half pipe is actually the rare corner we can take optimally by just sort of driving straight into it. That corner sets us up wonderfully for the final straightaway, and we take home a 2nd place finish as a result. More than enough to win the cup. The next Prix is the Moon Cup, starting with Berlin Byways. This track was apparently not cleared of traffic for the race. Well done, Mr. Schultz. As it turns out, auto-steering is utterly incapable of avoiding traffic here. But at least we're taking fender benders here, not cart-totaling collisions. Honestly, the AI wasn't even close to catching me on this one. Peach Garden's hazards were much more of an issue than traffic. We're talking biting piranha plants, free-roaming chain jumps, and worst of all, plenty of corners that auto-steering takes in an extremely inefficient manner. But I still won, somehow. Anyway, next up was Merry Mountain, which blesses us with one of the best ending stretches we could hope for, a half-pipe into a very long straightaway to the finish. So yeah, that's win number 3. Can we make it a perfect 4? That'll require besting 3DS Rainbow Road. Is auto-steering good at this track? No. But thanks to the physics-defying properties of auto-steering keeping us on track, we do get 2nd, which is good enough for 1st overall. That's half of the Grand Prix behind us. Now time for the Fruit Cup, and its first race, Amsterdam Drift. which honestly the auto steering might be better at than me. At least it could keep track of where to turn from lap to lap. Still only good enough for second place though. Not a bad start, but we do need to make up ground. Next up was Riverside Park, a very naturalistic track with hardly a true straightaway in sight. Not exactly a recipe for success. And even less once I got a mushroom. This is because once you have a mushroom, auto steering is smart enough to realize that you might want to use it to take a shortcut across rough terrain with it. However, since we don't use items, all this means for us is that auto steering has no qualms with driving us straight off road. We finished 4th as a result. But maybe we can turn things around at DK Summit. While our slalom technique is hideous, the rest of the track is full of half and even full pipes, which are actually quite beneficial to us, earning us our first win of the cup. And we're actually only 1 point back from first now. So it's doable if we have a good showing at Yoshi's Island. The flora and fauna here certainly aren't trying to make it easy for us, and this ending kinda sucks. But we finished second, a place ahead of Diddy Kong, our nearest rival, which was just enough to claim first overall. That brings us to the Boomerang Cup and Bangkok Rush. You know what? I think more than any of the other races we've done, this one makes me wonder, how does one lose 50cc Grand Prix under normal circumstances? I mean, this course has sharp turn after sharp turn, even including this parking garage, which should be our kryptonite. But here we are with another first place finish. Maybe Mario Circuit will be more interesting. The Wigglers and Goombas could have made things interesting, but they don't wander close enough to the shoulder to actually get in our way. Getting hit by 2 blue shells, though, that'll do it. Still got second, though, so don't panic just yet. Waluigi Stadium has a lot of half-pipes, which bodes well for us. But it also has a lot of awkward, steep corners that aren't half-pipes, which auto-steering doesn't handle particularly well. And that proved the more impactful element here. I end up getting 4th thanks to that clumsy driving. We've got to make up a 4-point deficit in Singapore Speedway, so we basically have to get first, and even then it's not guaranteed. Luckily, the track is well built for us to do just that. It has lots of speed boosts and long swoopy turns that we can take almost normally. But even so, it was really close into the last 3 corners, which weren't all that favorable. But we just barely pulled it off. Got first, and finished 2 places ahead of Mario. Just what we needed to win the cup. Next up is the Feather Cup, starting with Athens Dash, where Mario and friends get to drive go-karts, shoot bullets, and set off explosives, almost certainly illegally, through World Heritage Sites. Anyway, as for the actual race, it's got lots of these steep climbs and gliding descents, which tend to be fairly straight. Perfect for our kart choice to shine, really. Even in spite of running into these fake piranha plants at the end, we take first place here pretty comfortably. Daisy Cruiser was next. Here, taking the corners so widely does prove fairly impactful over the course of the race. This turn just before the stairs, just before the finish, proved particularly troublesome. But luckily the final lap is the one where we finally get a bit of respite from the other racers, allowing us to at least finish in second place. Moonview Highway was next, and let me tell you, auto steering is insane on this track. It still hugs the shoulder, but unlike in the other traffic tracks, it really doesn't avoid the traffic at all competently. Additionally, it goes up here for some reason. I honestly didn't even know this was a place you could go before today. I don't think it would be an exaggeration to say that this race is where auto steering failed the most spectacularly, aside from maybe Rock Mountain. But I guess the normal AI also sucks at this track because we were solidly in first place for basically the entire race. That just leaves squeaky clean sprint between us and another Grand Prix victory. We do pretty well for most of the race, but we can't take the shortcut at the very end, and therefore lose like 2 or 3 places at the end of every single lap, including the final lap giving us a 4th place finish. Luckily, our strong performances in the first 3 races were just enough to allow us to hold first place in spite of the final race collapse. Cherry Cup starts with Los Angeles laps where driving on the shoulder is taken to a whole new level, by driving as far out underwater as we can on every beach section. Needless to say, those are pretty bad racing lines. But all that weirdness is pretty early on. By the time we get to the final lap, we just miss out on taking first. Not a bad start. Sunset Wilds had me worried for a moment when I got hit by item after item after item on lap 2, but luckily the track didn't have any horrible corners for us, so I was able to climb all the way back up to first by the end of the race. But would Koopa Cape go as well? Yeah, basically. The auto steering actually does a great job at sticking to the river and gaining the speed from that. Then there are of course a couple half pipes, which are always a welcome inclusion. Thanks to all that, first place here came pretty easily. We're going to Canada to do some winning on Vancouver Velocity. It went okay. Got second place, won the cup. Moving on. Now for the penultimate Grand Prix, the Acorn Cup. The first race here is Rome Avante. As for how I did, I can't really explain why, but I totally dominated here. Even a blue shell didn't put me in danger of losing first place. Next up is DK Mountain. Now you'd expect that we'd be pretty bad at this since the track is in large part a series of hairpin turns, and you'd be right about that. We routinely get passed on those corners. But that analysis is missing one important factor. The long, generous straightaway at the very end, which lets us make up ground after those corners and reclaim first just in time to cross the finish line. Daisy Circuit actually went a lot better than I was expecting. As it turns out, having speed boosts on the very edge of the track's most prominent corner works out pretty well for us. Even the part with the statues isn't too bad since you can drive mostly straight there. And that's another win. We'd have to really mess up this last track to lose the cup now. So what exactly does Piranha Plant Cove have in store for us? I'll be honest, it didn't go great, but we got third, and that was enough to win the cup. That just leaves one more cup between us and total victory in this challenge. The Spiny Cup. The first race here is Madrid Drive, a race that left me with one key mystery. How did someone throw this bomb so perfectly to hit me, and yet fail to pass me after doing so? Conclusion, the AI is incompetent and I got first place. Next up is Rosalina's Ice World, and really the route here is pretty favorable to us, with a lot of relatively straight sections to pull head on, and even a couple half pipes. We won this one comfortably. Bowser's Castle 3 is a mixed bag. There are a lot of straightaways, but these two turns towards the end, auto steering is particularly inept at. The straightaway to end things off might have saved us, if not for the Piranha Plant waiting to chomp us there every single lap. We ended up taking second, which is still decent, and keeps us on track for a win. If everything doesn't fall apart on Wee Rainbow Road. It's a fast-paced track with speed boost placed liberally. So liberally that we actually managed to hit them pretty regularly. Normally this could be bad because you might fall off, but auto steering makes it so that we can't. Like seriously, this might be the first time I've ever seen someone hit this speed boost and not be immediately launched into space. We've also got the figure 8 obstacle, which we can handle just like we did on Daisy Circuit, and of course, we love to see half pipes. So an easy first place then, right? Well, when Mario Kart decides it's your time to lose, you get sent 3 blue shells, 2 of which come in the last lap, and shunt you down to 3rd place instead. A fitting ending for the Spiny Cup, I suppose. Luckily, I was already far enough ahead that no one actually passed me in the standings, bringing us our 12th Grand Prix win of the challenge, and confirming that yes, it is possible to beat Mario Kart 8 Deluxe's DLC by doing absolutely nothing. Granted, the challenge wasn't really exciting or challenging, so I'm not sure why you'd ever want to do this, but you can. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, you might want to check out the video I made a while back trying to beat the game's base cups by doing absolutely nothing. Additionally, you'll probably want to subscribe because in the next couple weeks, there will be a video going up where I'm going to attempt to beat all of Super Mario Party Jamboree's boards by doing absolutely nothing. It'll be an experience, that's for sure. Additionally, if you like what I'm doing here, would you kindly give the video a like and comment for the old algorithm, or even support me on Patreon, like these fine folks on screen. I'd especially like to thank my $15 tier patrons, Alex Hawkton and Ashford Says. But anyways, until next time, I've been Supercraft, and I'll be waiting on you for that next challenge. Goodbye.